Hey everyone! Tonight we're stepping into the ancient golden age of the Witcher world to uncover one of its most intriguing hidden mysteries. The kind of secret that has been whispered about in forgotten corners of Brokilon Forest, where ancient, elven powers once walked and legends were born in starlight and shadow. It's a story filled with unexpected revelations, lost knowledge of the elder blood, and truths that were buried beneath centuries of myth and the echoes of dying magic. So before we begin this journey together, take a moment to hit that like button. If you're ready for tonight's adventure into the deepest lore of the Witcher universe. And don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy these deep explorations into beloved fantasy worlds. Drop a comment and let me know what part of the world you're listening from. I love seeing our global community come together for these stories that span across time itself. Now, get comfortable, maybe adjust your lighting, settle into your favorite spot, and let yourself sink into the ancient rhythms of a world where magic flowed like rivers of liquid starlight. And let's begin tonight's journey together into mysteries that predate even the oldest Witcher schools. Listen closely now, for this tale begins not with the familiar medallions and silver swords we know, but in an age when the very fabric of reality trembled on the edge of transformation. Long before Geralt walked the path, long before the first Witcher mutations scarred human flesh, there existed a golden age when the Ancient ruled supreme beneath canopies of eternal twilight, their voices weaving spells that could reshape the bones of the world itself. In those distant days, when the boundaries between realms were as thin as morning mist, there stood within the deepest heart of Brokilon Forest a library that held secrets older than the conjunction of the spheres. Its halls were carved not from stone, but from living wood that sang with accumulated wisdom, its walls breathing with the gentle pulse of ancient magic that had learned to dream. But on one fateful evening, as the twin moons cast their silver shadows through leaves that had witnessed the birth of civilizations, something impossible was discovered within those hallowed halls. An artifact that should not have existed, bearing inscriptions in elder speech that spoke of events that had not yet come to pass, or perhaps had already happened in realms beyond counting. The artifact was beautiful in its impossibility, a crystalline sphere that contained what appeared to be captured starlight. But when the wisest of the Aeon Savern examined it closely, they found something that made their immortal hearts skip with terror and wonder. Within the swirling light, they glimpsed fragments of memory that belonged to no living being, visions of worlds dying and being reborn, of magic itself fleeing across infinite realities like a wounded animal seeking shelter, and carved into its surface in script so ancient that even the eldest elves had to strain to decipher it, was a prophecy that spoke of the silent conjunction, an event that would make the great catastrophe that brought humans to their world seem like merely the first note in a symphony of cosmic transformation that had been playing across eternity. Most disturbing of all, the prophecy revealed that what they knew as the conjunction of the spheres was not a unique catastrophe, but merely one repetition in an endless cycle of reality's death and rebirth, and that their golden age itself existed in the shadow of an approaching darkness that had already consumed countless versions of their universe across dimensions beyond imagination. As the elven scholars gathered around this impossible artifact, their faces pale with the reflected light of captured stars, they realized that everything they believed about their world, their magic, and their destiny was about to change forever. The artifact pulsed once, like a dying heartbeat, and in that pulse they heard the first whisper of a truth so vast and terrible that it would reshape their understanding of existence itself. But what they discovered within that starlight prison, what revelation made even immortal beings tremble with cosmic terror, and how this ancient mystery connects to the very survival of magic across all realities, that is a tale that must unfold slowly, like the careful blooming of a midnight flower, that only reveals its true nature to those patient enough to watch through the darkest hours of the night, deep within the Brokilon Forest, where ancient trees grew so tall their crowns touched the realm of stars themselves. There existed a sanctuary of knowledge that predated the oldest human settlements by millennia. This was the Ironwood Bina, the Hall of Whispered Wisdom, carved into the living heartwood of a tree so vast that entire elven cities could have nested within its roots. The air here shimmered with residual magic from centuries of accumulated spells, each breath carrying the scent of parchment aged beyond human comprehension and the subtle fragrance of flowers that bloomed only in eternal twilight. Crystalline formations jutted from the walls like frozen thoughts, each one containing the preserved memory of a spell so powerful that it had left permanent marks upon reality itself. You find yourself standing at the threshold of this sacred place, not as an intruder, but as one called by destiny itself. You are a scholar of the old ways, one of the few mortals granted access to the deepest archives of elven lore, your mind trained to decipher the flowing script of elder speech and your heart attuned to the subtle harmonies of ancient magic. Your guide through these hallowed halls is Elindra, an ancient dryad whose bark-like skin bears the patterns of countless seasons, her eyes holding depths that reflect not just wisdom, but the weight of memories that span geological ages. She moves through the library with the fluid grace of growing vines, her fingers trailing along the shelves as if greeting old friends. The knowledge you seek sleeps in the deepest chambers, she whispers, her voice carrying the rustle of leaves in an eternal breeze. But some truths, once awakened, cannot be put back to sleep. The artifact that was found here 3 nights past has already begun to change things, to call forth memories that were meant to remain buried. Beside you walks Kalain, a half-elf whose silver hair catches starlight even in the depths of the forest. She carries herself with the careful poise of one who belongs fully to neither world, her blood singing with traces of the elder blood that mark her as something more than human, yet less than fully elven. Her eyes hold flecks of gold that seem to pulse with their own inner light, and when she speaks, there's a musical quality to her voice that suggests words heard in dreams. "I can feel it calling," she says, her hand pressed against her chest as if trying to calm a racing heart. The artifact resonates with something in my blood, like an echo of a song I've never heard, but somehow know by heart. It frightens me, but I cannot ignore it. The library stretches before you in impossible directions, its architecture defying simple geometry as corridors branch and merge like the patterns of growing branches. Shelves carved from living wood rise into shadows that seem to breathe with their own life, filled with scrolls and tomes bound in materials that have no names in any modern tongue. Moonlight filters through leaves that have grown into intricate patterns, casting ever-shifting shadows that dance across walls covered in flowing elder speech. The script seems to move in the corner of your vision, as if the words themselves are alive and aware of your presence. The artifact waits in the chamber of echoing silence, Elindra continues, leading you deeper into the maze of knowledge. It appeared without warning, as if it had always been there, but had chosen this moment to reveal itself. The Severn who found it claimed it spoke to them in languages that have not been heard since the world was young. As you walk, the very air seems to thicken with possibility, each step taking you not just deeper into the library, but closer to revelations that will reshape your understanding of reality itself. The mystery of the crystalline sphere pulses ahead like a second heartbeat, calling you forward into a story that began before time had a name. The call to action comes not as a choice, but as an inevitability written in the very fabric of your being. As you stand before the chamber of echoing silence, the crystalline artifact pulses with a rhythm that matches your heartbeat, and you understand that this moment has been waiting for you across centuries of preparation. Elindra places her ancient hand upon the living door, and it opens with a sound like the first breath of spring after an endless winter. The chamber beyond defies description, its walls seeming to curve inward and outward simultaneously. as if the space exists in multiple dimensions at once. At its center, suspended in a shaft of pure moonlight that appears to come from no visible source, hovers the artifact that has called you here. The sphere is larger than you expected, perhaps the size of a human head, its crystalline surface containing swirling patterns of light that move like captured aurora. But as you approach, you realize that what you took for light is actually something far more profound. These are memories, experiences, fragments of consciousness from beings who lived and died in realities so distant that their very existence challenges the boundaries of possibility. It appeared exactly as you see it now, Elendra whispers, her voice barely audible in the sacred space. But the moment our wisest scholars began to examine it, they spoke of visions that shook them to their immortal cores. Visions of our world, our golden age, but seen from the perspective of those who watched it die. Kaylin steps closer, her elder blood heritage making her more sensitive to the artifact's emanations. Her eyes widen as she extends her hand toward the sphere, stopping just short of touching its surface. It's not just one memory, she breathes. It's thousands, millions of them, all layered together like sediment in the deepest ocean. I can feel the weight of their accumulated sorrow, their desperate hope, their terrible knowledge. The first fragment of prophecy becomes visible as you circle the artifact, elder speech flowing across its surface like liquid silver. You recognize some of the words, ancient terms for concepts that have no modern equivalent, but others are so archaic that they seem to predate language itself. Yet somehow, perhaps through the same force that brought you here, the meaning becomes clear. Anale Lane, you read aloud, your voice carrying the musical cadence of the ancient tongue. When the stars forget their names and magic bleeds between the worlds, the silent conjunction shall herald the return of what was lost and the losing of what was found. But it is the next line that makes your blood run cold, for it speaks of the Ard Geith, the great catastrophe, not as a single event, but as part of an endless cycle. Akenblide Tersin, the flowing script continues. The Wolf Pack runs through dying light, seeking not conquest but sanctuary, for they flee the devourer of all possible tomorrows. Suddenly, the artifact flares with brilliant light, and the chamber fills with the sound of a voice that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It speaks in the tongue of the INL, the elder folk who were said to have mastered travel between worlds, but the words carry an urgency that transcends the beauty of their language. Behold, the voice intones, the record of the spiral of infinite sorrows, where each world's ending births another's beginning, and where the wild hunt rides not as harbingers of doom, but as the last hope of realities beyond counting. Visions flood your mind, overwhelming in their scope and terrible in their beauty. You see the golden age of your own world, but from a perspective that reveals it as just one node in an infinite web of possibilities. You witness the conjunction of the spheres, not as a unique catastrophe, but as one iteration of a pattern that has repeated itself across dimensions without number dot in some realities. The elves successfully prevented the conjunction, only to watch their world slowly drain of magic until it became a hollow shell of what it once was. In others, they embraced the chaos and were consumed by it, their civilizations crumbling as raw magic tore through the fabric of existence, like wildfire through dry grass. But most disturbing of all are the visions of worlds where the conjunction never came at all, where the slow death of magic created a spreading void that eventually consumed not just individual realities, but the very concept of possibility itself. These are the worlds that the wild hunt truly fears, the destinations they flee from rather than seek. The Anel discovered the truth first, Kaylin whispers, her voice heavy with the weight of newfound understanding. Their mastery of dimensional travel allowed them to see the pattern, to understand that every world, every reality, every possible version of existence is connected by threads of magic that can be severed, damaged, or corrupted. The artifact pulses again, And you see the wild hunt not as the fearsome raiders of legend, but as desperate refugees carrying the last seeds of magic from dying realities. Their apparent cruelty is born not from malice, but from the terrible knowledge that they must harvest what they can from each world before it falls to the spreading void. They search for the Kavazar, Alindra says, her ancient voice trembling with recognition. The heart of all magics, the source from which all realities draw their power. It is hidden somewhere in the infinite spiral of possible worlds, and they believe that if they can find it, they can heal the wounds that are killing magic across all dimensions. But even as understanding dawns, new questions arise. If the wild hunt seeks to save magic itself, why do they appear as conquerors rather than saviors? What force or entity is responsible for the spreading void that consumes realities? And most importantly, what role does your own world play in this cosmic struggle? The artifact's light begins to fade, but not before you catch a glimpse of something that makes your heart race with both terror and hope. Hidden within the deepest layers of the crystalline sphere, you see the outline of a map, a guide to the location of the Kavazar itself. But the map is incomplete, its crucial details obscured by what appears to be some form of protective encryption. The knowledge is here, you realize, your voice filled with awe and trepidation. But it's locked away, protected by safeguards that require something more than mere scholarly study to unlock. As you turn to share this discovery with your companions, you notice that the chamber itself has begun to change. The walls now shimmer with the same silver script that covers the artifact, and you realize that your very presence here has awakened something that has been sleeping for centuries, waiting for the right moment to reveal its secrets. The first phase of your quest is complete, but the deeper mystery has only just begun to unfold. Somewhere in the infinite spiral of realities, the Kavazar waits to be found, and the fate of magic itself hangs in the balance of your next choice. The choice presents itself not as a moment of deliberation, but as the natural next breath after a lifetime of preparation. Standing before the awakened chamber, with silver script flowing across every surface like living water, you understand that the artifact has been waiting not just for someone to find it, but for someone willing to accept the burden of its truth. I will seek the Kavazar, you declare, your words resonating through the transformed space with unexpected power. The moment the commitment leaves your lips, the crystalline sphere flares with brilliant light, and the incomplete map within its depths begins to shift and change, revealing pathways through realities that have never been charted by mortal minds. Alindra nods slowly, her ancient eyes reflecting depths of sorrow and pride. The path you choose has been walked by others before you, though none have returned to tell their tales. The Savern, who first discovered dimensional magic, spoke of prices that must be paid for such knowledge. Costs measured not in gold or blood, but in the very essence of what makes us who we are. The first clue reveals itself as the silver script on the walls begins to coalesce into recognizable patterns. Ancient star charts appear, showing constellations that exist only in realities where different physical laws govern the dance of celestial bodies. These are not mere decorations, but navigational aids for traveling between worlds, each symbol representing a gateway that can be opened by those who understand the deeper harmonies of magic. Kaylin approaches one of the walls, her elder blood heritage allowing her to perceive subtleties that escape even your trained perception. The patterns are moving, she observes, tracing the flowing script with her finger. They're showing us a sequence, a ritual that must be performed to unlock the first gateway. But the knowledge required is scattered across multiple sources, hidden in different locations throughout our world. The chamber fills with a low, musical humming as the artifact responds to your growing understanding. Within its crystalline depths, new visions begin to form, showing you glimpses of the places you must visit to gather the necessary components for your quest. You see the sunken palace of Lok Muin, where elven mages once conducted experiments that touched the very foundations of reality. You witnessed the crystal caves beneath the Mahakaman Mountains, where dwarven master crafters learned to forge metals that could channel pure magic. Most intriguingly, you catch a brief glimpse of the Tower of Shadows, a structure that exists simultaneously in multiple realities, its floors extending both upward into impossible heights and downward into depths that mirror other dimensions. It is here, the vision suggests, that the final piece of the puzzle waits, guarded by beings who have transcended the normal boundaries of existence. The knowledge we seek was deliberately scattered, you realize, studying the flowing patterns of information. The ancient mages who first discovered the truth about the spiral of infinite sorrows understood that such power could not be allowed to fall into the wrong hands. They created a series of tests, challenges that would ensure only those truly worthy could unlock the secrets of dimensional travel. The departure from the Aeon Wodbina comes with a weight of ceremony that speaks to the magnitude of your undertaking. The ancient dryad performs a ritual of blessing that has not been spoken in 3 centuries, her words weaving protective enchantments around you and your companions that will shield you from the worst effects of dimensional distortion. Vai fail. En vain, she intones, placing her bark-covered hand upon your forehead. Go well, beautiful one, but remember that beauty can become corruption if gazed upon too long. The realities you will glimpse were not meant for mortal eyes, and the knowledge you seek comes with prices that compound across eternity. As you emerge from the depths of Brokilon Forest, the normal world seems strangely fragile, as if you could step through it like morning mist if you simply knew the correct way to move. The artifact travels with you, carefully wrapped in cloth that has been blessed by moonlight and woven with threads of crystallized magic. Even contained, it continues to pulse with that otherworldly rhythm, a constant reminder of the cosmic forces you have chosen to engage with. Your first destination is the ruins of an ancient elven observatory, hidden in the Pontar Valley where few modern travelers dare to venture. According to the visions granted by the artifact, this structure once housed the Mirror of Infinite Reflections, a device capable of showing the same location across multiple realities simultaneously. Though the mirror itself was shattered during the conjunction of the spheres, its fragments are said to retain echoes of their original power. The journey takes you through landscapes that seem to shift subtly as you travel, as if your very presence is causing reality to adjust itself around the artifact's influence. Rivers flow in patterns that remind you of elder speech. Clouds form configurations that mirror the star charts you saw in the chamber, and the wind carries whispers in languages that predate the separation of the spheres. Kaelin walks beside you in contemplative silence, her golden eyes reflecting depths of thought that speak to the profound changes occurring within her elder blood heritage. The artifact's proximity is awakening dormant aspects of her lineage, connections to ancestral memories that stretch back to the first days of elven civilization. I can hear them sometimes, she finally admits as you make camp beneath stars that seem unusually bright. The voices of my ancestors, speaking of choices they made and prices they paid. They speak of the Kvaizar not as a place or object, but as a state of being, a harmony between all possible versions of magic that exists only when perfect balance is achieved. The night brings dreams that are more than dreams, visions that seep through the boundaries between sleep and waking. You find yourself standing in the observatory you seek, but as it existed in its prime, when elven astronomers mapped not just the stars of their own sky, but the stellar patterns of countless other realities. The knowledge they accumulated was staggering in its scope, encompassing understandings of time and space that challenged the very concepts of linear existence in the dream. You watch as the ancient elves discovered the first signs of the cosmic decay that would eventually threaten all realities. They saw it as a subtle dimming of certain types of starlight, a gradual reduction in the magical resonance that connected their world to the infinite spiral of possibilities. Their attempts to understand and combat this decay led to the experiments that would eventually contribute to the conjunction of the spheres. When morning comes, you wake with the absolute certainty that your quest is not just about finding the Kavizar, but about completing the work that the ancient elves began millennia ago. The observatory ahead holds not just fragments of a broken mirror, but pieces of a cosmic puzzle that, when properly assembled, might offer the key to healing the wounds that are slowly killing magic across all possible worlds. The artifact pulses. Once as you break camp, its rhythm now perfectly synchronized with your heartbeat, and you understand that you have crossed a threshold from which there can be no return. The path ahead leads not just to different places, but to different ways of existing, and the person who completes this quest may not be the same person who began it. The ruins of the Undead Observatory rise from the Pontar Valley, like the broken fingers of a giant's hand, their crystalline surfaces catching and reflecting light in patterns that seem to follow no earthly law. What remains of the structure defies the normal passage of time, its elven architecture appearing sometimes ancient and weathered, other times pristine and newly constructed, as if the building exists in multiple temporal states simultaneously. Approach to the ruins triggers the first of many strange phenomena. The very air around the observatory shimmers with residual magic, and you begin to see glimpses of the structure as it once was. Ghostly images of elven astronomers flicker in and out of existence, their translucent forms moving through routines of observation and calculation that they performed centuries ago. Kaylin gasps as her elder blood heritage resonates with the concentrated magical energy. "I can see them all," she whispers, her voice filled with wonder and sorrow. Every version of this place that ever existed, layered one upon another like pages in an infinite book. The conjunction didn't just break the mirror, it shattered the very concept of singular existence here. The entrance to the observatory is not a door in any conventional sense, but rather a threshold between realities. As you step through, you experience a moment of profound disorientation, as if you are moving not just through space, but through the accumulated history of the structure itself. For an instant, you see the observatory as it was during its construction. Witness its glory days of cosmic discovery, and feel the terror of its inhabitants as they realize the true scope of the approaching conjunction. Inside, the remnants of the mirror of infinite reflections lie scattered across a chamber that stretches impossibly high, its walls covered in astronomical calculations written in flowing elder speech. Each mirror fragment contains a different reflection, showing not your own face, but glimpses of alternate versions of yourself making the same journey in realities where different choices led to different outcomes. The largest fragment, embedded in what was once the mirror's central focus, shows the most disturbing vision yet. In its surface, you see a version of your world where the quest for the Kvezar failed, where the spreading void has consumed not just magic, but hope itself. The people in this reflection move through their days like shadows, unaware that their reality is slowly dissolving around them. The mirror was created to monitor the health of magic across dimensions. Comes a voice from behind you. You turn to see a figure that appears to be neither fully solid nor entirely ethereal. An elven astronomer whose existence seems anchored to this place by the sheer force of accumulated knowledge. "I am Aragon Anterg, last keeper of the stellar archives. I have been waiting for someone to come who could understand what we discovered in our final days." The ghostly astronomer gestures toward the scattered fragments, and they begin to resonate with harmonious tones that speak of cosmic forces beyond normal comprehension. We learn that magic is not an infinite resource, but rather a finite energy that flows between realities like water through connected vessels. When one world overuses its magical reserves, the deficit must be balanced by drawing power from neighboring dimensions. As he speaks, the mirror fragments show you the true nature of the cosmic threat. It is not a single enemy or destructive force, but rather the inevitable consequence of magical imbalance across infinite realities. Worlds that achieve great magical power do so by unconsciously draining energy from less developed dimensions, creating a cascade effect that eventually leads to the complete magical collapse of entire reality clusters. The conjunction of the spheres was our attempt to redistribute the magical load. Eredin continues, his form flickering as the energy required to maintain his presence fluctuates. We sought to connect our world to dimensions with surplus magical energy, hoping to achieve a more stable balance. Instead, we created new instabilities that accelerated the process we were trying to prevent. The revelation hits you with the force of a physical blow. The elves who caused the conjunction were not reckless experimenters or power-hungry mages, but desperate scientists trying to solve a cosmic crisis that threatened the very concept of magic itself. Their failure was not one of arrogance, but of incomplete understanding. Kaylin approaches the largest mirror fragment, her reflection showing not her current self, but an image of her as she might become if the quest succeeds. In this version, her elder blood heritage has been transformed into something beyond current comprehension, a living conduit between realities that allows for the controlled flow of magical energy across dimensional boundaries. The Fizar is not a place to be found, she realizes, her voice carrying new depths of understanding. It is a state of balance to be achieved, a harmony between all sources of magic that can only be created by those who understand the true cost of power. The ghostly astronomer nods approvingly. The artifacts scattered across your world are not just tools for finding the Kvizar, but components for creating it. Each piece contains a fragment of the mathematical formula necessary to achieve perfect, magical equilibrium across infinite dimensions. But the final component, the one that makes the equation possible, can only be provided by a living being willing to serve as the eternal guardian of the balance. The weight of this revelation settles upon you like a mantle of responsibility that extends beyond your own world, your own life, even your own reality. To complete the quest means not just finding the Kvizar, but becoming it, transforming yourself into a living nexus that maintains the flow of magic across all possible worlds. From the mirror fragments, you carefully extract the mathematical sequences that will be needed for the final ritual. The knowledge burns itself into your mind with the intensity of starfire, each equation carrying implications that stretch across dimensions. You understand now why the ancient elves scattered this information, why they required a quest to reunite. The knowledge is so dangerous, so transformative, that it could drive an unprepared mind to madness. As you prepare to leave the observatory, Eredin's ghostly form begins to fade, his purpose finally complete after centuries of waiting. The path ahead leads to the crystal caves, he warns, his voice growing distant. There you will find those who chose a different solution to the cosmic crisis, dwarven mastersmiths who sought to forge a physical anchor for magical energy. Their methods were more successful than ours, but the price they paid was equally terrible. The journey back through the threshold is even more disorienting than your entry, as if the observatory is reluctant to let you leave with its secrets. For a moment, you exist in multiple realities simultaneously, experiencing different versions of your departure, different outcomes of your quest, different fates for the cosmos itself. When you finally emerge into the normal world, the artifact in your possession has changed. Its crystalline surface now contains new patterns of light, mathematical sequences that pulse in rhythm with the equations you absorbed in the observatory. You have taken the first step toward becoming something more than human, and the transformation has already begun to change how you perceive the world around you. The next destination calls to you with increasing urgency, for you now understand that time itself is a factor in the cosmic equation. Each moment that passes without the restoration of magical balance brings all realities closer to the final dissolution that will end not just worlds, but the very concept of existence itself. The journey toward the crystal caves beneath Mahakaman leads through increasingly strange territories, where the very landscape seems affected by the mathematical sequences now burning in your mind. Trees grow in patterns that mirror the equations from the observatory, their branches forming geometric relationships that speak to underlying cosmic harmonies. Rivers flow in spirals that echo the dimensional formulas, and even the stones beneath. Your feet arrange themselves in configurations that suggest deeper meaning. As you travel, a disturbing realization begins to take shape. The knowledge you absorbed at the observatory was not simply information, but a fundamental alteration of your perception of reality itself. You begin to see the connections between all things, the invisible threads of magical energy that bind every blade of grass to the infinite spiral of existence. What should be a revelation of wonder instead fills you with growing dread, for you understand now why the ancient elves spoke of prices that compound across eternity. Something is wrong. You confess to Kaelin as you make camp within sight of the Mahakaman peaks. The equations are not just knowledge, they are changing how I think, how I perceive everything around me. I can feel myself becoming something other than what I was. Her golden eyes reflect deep concern as she studies your face, noting changes that you cannot yet see yourself. Your eyes are beginning to show flecks of silver, she observes quietly. The same color as the script in the observatory. The transformation has begun, and I fear it cannot be stopped now that it has started. The dream that comes that night is not your own, but a shared vision that seems to arise from the collective, unconscious of all those who have ever attempted to manipulate the fundamental forces of magic. You find yourself standing in a great hall where beings from across multiple realities have gathered to discuss the spreading cosmic crisis. Elves from your world sit beside creatures that have no names in any terrestrial language, all united by their desperate search for a solution to the dying of magic. In the center of the gathering stands a figure that radiates such power and knowledge that looking directly at it causes physical pain. This is what you are becoming, what you must become to serve as the eternal guardian of magical balance. The figure speaks, and its words carry the weight of infinite responsibility. The Quasar is not a destination, but a transformation that creates a living equation capable of maintaining equilibrium across all possible realities. Those who accept this burden sacrifice their individual existence to become part of something infinitely larger, a cosmic consciousness that experiences all worlds simultaneously while belonging to none. You wake with the absolute certainty that the knowledge you absorbed was not meant for mortal minds. The ancient elves did not scatter it out of arrogance or the desire to create tests, but because they understood that anyone who possessed it completely would be fundamentally transformed by the experience. You are already past the point of no return, caught in a process that will either make you the savior of magic itself or destroy you entirely. Yet even as this terrible understanding settles upon you, you realize that turning back is not an option. The visions from the observatory showed you what happens to realities where the magical balance is not restored, and the fate of countless worlds now rests upon your willingness to sacrifice your humanity for the greater good. The approach to the crystal caves reveals the true magnitude of dwarven achievement in their attempts to solve the cosmic crisis. The mountains themselves have been transformed into a vast workshop, where master smiths once labored to forge physical anchors for magical energy. Great crystalline formations jut from the peaks like frozen lightning, each one containing trapped magic that pulses with the rhythm of a cosmic heartbeat. But as you draw closer, you begin to understand the terrible price the dwarves paid for their success. The crystals are not just containers for magical energy, they are prisons for the souls of the smiths who created them. Each formation contains the consciousness of a master craftsman who chose to merge their very essence with their work, becoming eternal guardians of the magical reservoirs they created. The entrance to the main cave system is guarded by a figure that was once dwarven but has been transformed into something far more elemental. His body appears to be carved from living crystal, and his eyes burn with the light of trapped starfire. When he speaks, his voice carries the resonance of mountains and the patience of geological ages. "I am Grundle Ironforge," he announces, though the name seems to come from a distant memory of what he once was. Last of the Crystal Wardens, guardian of the final reservoir. I have been waiting for one who carries the stellar equations, for only such a being can understand what we achieved here and what it cost us. He leads you through passages that have been carved not with conventional tools, but with focused applications of magical energy that left the walls smooth as glass and covered with patterns that mirror the cosmic formulas in your mind. The deeper you go, the more apparent it becomes that the entire mountain has been transformed into a single, vast magical apparatus designed to capture and contain energy from multiple dimensional sources. At the heart of the cave system lies the Grand Reservoir, a chamber so filled with crystallized magic that the air itself glows with soft multicolored light. The walls are lined with formations that pulse in complex rhythms, each one representing the life force of a master smith who chose transformation over death when the great work demanded more than any single being could provide. "We discovered what the elves learned too late," Grundle explains, his crystalline form reflecting the light of the reservoir in patterns of impossible beauty. "The cosmic balance cannot be maintained through manipulation of external forces alone. It requires conscious will, intelligent guidance, living souls who choose to become part of the equation itself. The knowledge contained within the crystal caves is fundamentally different from what you absorbed at the observatory, where the elven mathematics dealt with the theoretical frameworks of dimensional magic. The dwarven work focuses on practical applications, the actual methods by which conscious beings can merge with cosmic forces while retaining enough individuality to make decisions that affect the balance of realities. As you study the crystalline formations, absorbing the techniques encoded within their structure, you feel the transformation accelerating within your own body. Your skin begins to take on a subtle luminescence, and you can feel your consciousness expanding to encompass awareness that extends far beyond the boundaries of your physical form. Callan watches with a mixture of awe and sorrow as the changes become more apparent. "You are becoming something magnificent and terrible," she whispers. "I can see threads of connection forming between you and distant realities, as if you are growing roots that extend across infinite dimensions. The final piece of knowledge from the crystal caves comes not from any external source, but from within yourself. As the transformation reaches a critical threshold, you suddenly understand that the Kvaizar is not something to be found or created, but something to be awakened within those who carry the proper combination of knowledge, will, and sacrifice. As you prepare to leave the caves, carrying with you the combined wisdom of elven theory and dwarven practice, you know that only one destination remains. The Tower of Shadows awaits, where the final test will determine whether you have the strength to complete the transformation and become the eternal guardian of magical balance across all possible worlds. The path to the Tower of Shadows leads through landscapes that exist in the spaces between realities, where the accumulated knowledge you now carry begins to warp the very nature of your surroundings. What should be a simple journey across familiar territories becomes a passage through layers of existence that fold and unfold around you like the pages of an infinite book. Each step takes you not just forward in space, but deeper into the fundamental structure of magical reality itself. Your transformation has accelerated beyond anything you could have anticipated. The silver flecks in your eyes have spread to create patterns that mirror the star charts of multiple dimensions, and your skin now glows with a soft luminescence that seems to pulse in rhythm with the cosmic equations burning in your mind. Most disturbing of all, you have begun to experience moments of consciousness that exist simultaneously across multiple realities. Brief glimpses of other versions of yourself making this same journey in worlds where different choices led to different outcomes. Kaylin walks beside you in contemplative silence, her own elder blood heritage now fully awakened by proximity to your transforming essence. She sees connections between all living things, threads of magical energy that bind every creature to the infinite web of existence. The weight of this expanded perception brings tears to her eyes as she realizes the magnitude of suffering caused by the cosmic imbalance you seek to correct. In some realities, we have already failed, she confesses as you rest beside a stream that flows upward into the sky before disappearing into dimensional folds. I can see the outcomes, the worlds where the magical balance collapsed completely. The inhabitants don't even remember that magic once existed. They live in hollow shells of reality, going through the motions of existence without ever understanding what they have lost. The Tower of Shadows reveals itself gradually, appearing first as a distortion in the air that bends light in impossible ways, then slowly taking form as a structure that exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Its base rests in your reality, but its upper levels extend into realms that follow different physical laws. Some floors appear to be constructed from crystallized time, others from compressed space, and the highest visible levels seem to be built from pure thought given architectural form. As you approach the tower's entrance, you are met by a being that defies easy description. It appears to be an elf, but one who has undergone transformations far more radical than anything the conjunction of the spheres ever produced. Its form shifts constantly between states of matter and energy, and when it speaks, its voice carries harmonics that resonate across multiple dimensional frequencies. I am Avalak, it announces, though the name carries implications that extend far beyond simple identification. Once I was a navigator of the space between worlds, but now I serve as guardian of the final threshold. You seek the tower's deepest secrets, but know that the knowledge contained within these walls comes with a price that few are prepared to pay. The tower's interior defies conventional geometry, with staircases that lead both up and down simultaneously, corridors that loop back on themselves through dimensional folds, and chambers that exist in temporal states ranging from the distant past to possible futures. Each level contains repositories of knowledge gathered from realities across the infinite spiral, the accumulated wisdom of beings who face the same cosmic crisis that now threatens all existence. On the 7th level, you discover the Hall of Eternal Guardians, a chamber containing the preserved consciousness of those who attempted to become the Vizar in previous iterations of the cosmic cycle. Their forms are visible as shifting patterns of light and shadow, beings who achieved partial transformation, but lacked some crucial element necessary for complete success. We are the failures, speaks a voice that seems to come from all of them. At once, each of us carried the stellar equations, each possessed the dwarven techniques, but we lacked the final component that would allow us to serve as eternal guardians of the balance. We became trapped between transformation and dissolution, conscious but powerless, aware of the cosmic crisis, but unable to prevent it. Their presence fills you with both inspiration and dread, for you see in their fate a preview of what might await you if you lack the strength to complete the transformation. Yet their sacrifice was not meaningless, for through their failures, they learned crucial lessons about the nature of the Kavazar and the requirements for successful transformation. 14th level houses the Chamber of Infinite Mirrors, where the true scope of the cosmic crisis becomes apparent. Each mirror shows a different cluster of realities, and you can see this spreading pattern of magical decay that threatens to consume all possible worlds. Some mirrors show realities where the decay has progressed so far that the very concept of existence has begun to break down, while others reveal worlds where desperate attempts to hoard magical energy have accelerated the collapse of neighboring dimensions. But it is on the 21st level that you encounter the most profound revelation yet. Here, in the archive of cosmic memory, you find records of previous successful transformations, Accounts of beings who achieved the state of the Kevazar and became eternal guardians of magical balance. Their stories reveal that the final component required for transformation is not knowledge or technique, but something far more fundamental. Love, whispers Avalak as you absorb the contents of the archive. Not romantic love or familial affection, but cosmic love, the willingness to embrace all possible realities as equally precious, to feel compassion for every possible version of existence. The Kevazar cannot be sustained by duty alone, or by fear of consequences. Only love powerful enough to encompass infinite worlds can provide the emotional foundation necessary for eternal guardianship. The understanding hits you with devastating clarity. Your transformation has given you the knowledge and techniques necessary to become the Kevazar, but it has also begun to separate you from the emotional connections that make such love possible. You can feel your humanity slipping away with each passing moment, replaced by cosmic awareness that threatens to reduce all individual concerns to statistical probabilities in an infinite equation dot in the highest accessible level of the tower. You find the sanctum of final choice, a chamber that exists partially outside normal time and space. Here, the decision must be made. Continue the transformation and risk losing the emotional capacity necessary for true guardianship, or find some way to maintain your humanity while accepting the cosmic responsibility that comes with the Dazar. State, Kaylin joins you in the sanctum, her presence an anchor to the emotional reality you fear losing. I can feel you slipping away, she says, her voice heavy with sorrow. The being you are becoming may have the power to save all realities, but will it retain enough of who you were to care about the lives within those realities? The chamber fills with a soft, ethereal light as the Tower of Shadows prepares to reveal its final secret. The choice you make here will determine not just your own fate, but the future of magic across all possible worlds. The cosmic equations burn in your mind with increasing intensity, demanding completion, while your heart struggles to maintain connection to the emotional truths that give meaning to existence itself. Above you, the tower's highest levels beckon, promising knowledge that will complete your transformation, but may cost you the very humanity that makes that transformation worthwhile. The path forward requires not just courage, but wisdom to navigate between the twin dangers of insufficient power and excessive transcendence. The sanctum of final choice pulses with energies that exist beyond the normal flow of time, allowing you moments of profound reflection that stretch like hours while the outside world waits in suspended animation. In this temporal pocket, you find yourself face to face with echoes of cosmic history, witnessing the struggles of those who came before and understanding the deeper patterns that connect all attempts to restore magical balance across infinite realities. The chamber reveals itself to be more than a simple room, transforming into a living mandala of interconnected possibilities, where each decision point branches into countless potential futures. You see yourself making different choices, following different paths, and witness the consequences that ripple outward from each variation. In some visions, you complete the transformation but lose all connection to individual compassion, becoming a perfect mathematical guardian who maintains balance while remaining indifferent to the suffering of specific beings. In others, you retain your humanity but lack the power necessary to prevent cosmic collapse. Kaylin moves through this temporal space with increasing grace, her elder blood heritage allowing her to navigate the currents of possibility with intuitive understanding. She reaches out to touch one of the branching pathways, and suddenly you both experience a shared vision of profound significance. You see an ancient civilization that faced the same cosmic crisis, beings who discovered a third option that none of the previous guardians had considered. They found a way to share the burden, she breathes, her voice filled with wonder and recognition. Instead of one being accepting total transformation, they created a bond between multiple consciousness that allowed them to maintain individual identity while collectively achieving the cosmic awareness necessary for guardianship. The vision shows you the Anling, the Swallow People, who existed in a reality where the approach to the Kvizar state was fundamentally collaborative rather than individual. Through techniques that combine the stellar equations with emotional resonance, they learned to create what they called the Sidak Gilik, the moon bond, a connection between willing souls that allowed them to share both the power and the responsibility of cosmic guardianship. As this understanding crystallizes, you feel something within your transformation begin to shift. The relentless march toward individual transcendence slows, replaced by a growing awareness of Kalen's presence not as a separate being, but as a potential partner in the great work. Her elder blood sings in harmony with the cosmic equations burning in your mind, creating resonances that suggest possibilities neither of you could achieve alone. The artifact, you realize suddenly, pulling the crystalline sphere from its protective wrapping. It has been preparing for this moment all along. The memories it contains are not just records of cosmic history, they are templates for the kind of consciousness necessary to sustain the Kvazar state. The sphere flares with brilliant light as it responds to your recognition, and suddenly the sanctum fills with the presence of those who achieved successful transformation in distant realities. They appear not as individual beings, but as harmonious clusters of consciousness that maintain both cosmic awareness and personal connection to the realities they protect. One such cluster speaks, its voice a blend of multiple harmonies that creates meaning beyond the capacity of individual words. The path you seek requires not the abandonment of love, but its expansion beyond the boundaries of single existence. The moon bond allows consciousness to remain rooted in specific emotional connections while extending awareness across infinite possibilities. The process of creating such a bond is revealed to be both simpler and more profound than the individual transformation you have been undergoing. It requires not the accumulation of cosmic knowledge, but the willingness to open your transformed consciousness to another being completely, sharing not just thoughts and feelings, but the very essence of what makes you who you are. Kalen steps closer, her golden eyes now flecked with the same silver patterns that mark your own transformation. "I can feel the equations calling to something in my blood," she says, her voice carrying new depths of understanding. The elder blood was never meant to be a tool for individual power, but a bridge between consciousness, a way for different types of awareness to merge without losing their essential nature. The ritual that follows is unlike anything described in the ancient texts you have studied. It requires no complex preparations or elaborate ceremonies, but instead demands complete emotional vulnerability between participants. As you and Kaylin join hands in the heart of the sanctum, the cosmic equations in your mind begin to resonate with the elder blood. Heritage flowing through her veins, the experience of forming the moon bond transcends simple description. You remain yourself, retaining all the memories and emotional connections that define your individual identity, while simultaneously gaining access to Kaylin's perspective on existence. Through her eyes, you see the cosmic crisis not as an abstract mathematical problem, but as a source of genuine suffering for countless living beings across infinite realities. More importantly, her presence provides an emotional anchor that prevents the complete transcendence that would have made you an effective but ultimately cold guardian of cosmic balance. Together, you achieve a state of awareness that encompasses both the mathematical precision necessary for managing dimensional magic and the compassionate understanding required to make decisions that truly serve the welfare of all existence. Tower of Shadows responds to your successful bonding by revealing its ultimate secret. The highest levels, previously inaccessible, open to your combined consciousness, revealing chambers that exist in pure harmony with the cosmic forces you now help to guide. Here, you find the final pieces of knowledge necessary to understand not just how to maintain magical balance, but how to heal the damage that has already been done to realities across the infinite spiral. The healing process will take time measured, not in years or centuries, but in cosmic ages, requiring patient work to restore the proper flow of magical energy between dimensions. Yet with the moon bond sustaining both your power and your compassion, the task becomes not a burden to be endured, but a sacred responsibility to be embraced with joy. As you prepare to leave the tower and begin the great work of cosmic healing, Volek approaches with an expression that combines relief and profound respect. You have achieved what none before you managed, he acknowledges. The preservation of individual love within cosmic consciousness. The realities you will guard. Are fortunate indeed to have guardians who remember what it means to care about specific lives within infinite existence. The descent from the Tower of Shadows marks not an ending, but a true beginning. The knowledge and power you now share must be applied with wisdom and patience, working to repair damage that has accumulated across countless iterations of cosmic crisis. The path ahead is long and challenging, but for the first time since beginning this quest, you face it not with dread of what you must sacrifice, but with joy in what you have chosen to become. The infinite spiral of reality stretches before you, each world a precious thread in the vast tapestry of existence that you and Kaylin will spend eternity protecting and nurturing. The love that preserved your humanity will now serve as the foundation for cosmic guardianship that truly serves the welfare of all possible worlds. The work of cosmic healing begins not with grand gestures or dramatic interventions, but with the patient restoration of connections that have been severed across countless realities. As you and Kaylin establish your first sanctuary in a dimensional fold between worlds, the true scope of the damage becomes apparent through your shared consciousness. The magical decay has spread far deeper than even the most pessimistic ancient scholars imagined, creating wounds in the fabric of existence that threaten to cascade into complete universal collapse. Your combined awareness allows you to perceive the intricate web of cause and effect that links every reality to every other, and what you discover fills you with both horror and determination. The cosmic crisis was not caused by any single catastrophic event, but by the accumulated weight of countless small decisions made by beings who never understood the multidimensional consequences of their actions. Each time a civilization achieved great magical power by unconsciously drawing energy from neighboring realities, it created instabilities that rippled outward through the infinite spiral of existence. The first world you choose to heal lies in a cluster of realities where the magical decay has progressed to the point where the inhabitants have begun to forget that magic ever existed. Through your shared perception, you witness entire civilizations living in hollow versions of their former glory, going through the motions of daily life while remaining completely unaware that they once possessed the power to reshape reality. With a thought or gesture, Kallen's emotional sensitivity proves crucial in understanding how to approach such damaged realities. Where your mathematical awareness might suggest immediate intervention to restore magical flow, her compassionate insight recognizes that sudden reintroduction of power to beings who have lost all understanding of its nature could cause more harm than healing. Instead, you begin with subtle influences, gently encouraging the rediscovery of wonder and possibility that must precede any restoration of actual magical ability. The process requires infinite patience and delicate touch. Working through dreams and synchronicities, you plant seeds of imagination in minds that have grown accustomed to purely material existence. A poet finds themselves writing verses about impossible colors they have never seen but somehow remember. A child begins drawing pictures of creatures that could not exist in their mundane world, yet feel more real than anything in their daily experience. A scholar discovers ancient texts in their family's attic, documents that speak of powers their rational mind rejects but their heart recognizes as truth. As these small awakenings accumulate across the damaged reality, you begin to perceive the first stirrings of renewed magical potential. The process is like watching a garden return to life after a devastating drought, with tiny shoots of possibility pushing through soil that had seemed permanently barren. Each small manifestation of recovered wonder strengthens the dimensional connections that allow magical energy to flow more freely between realities, but the work reveals disturbing patterns that extend far beyond simple energy depletion. In your expanded awareness, you begin to detect the presence of something that actively opposes the restoration of magical balance. This is not the void or emptiness you originally feared, but something far more insidious, a form of anti-consciousness that feeds on the dissolution of possibility itself. It's not just decay, Kellen observes during one of your shared meditations, her voice carrying overtones of cosmic dread. There's an intelligence behind the spreading damage, something that benefits from the death of magic and actively works to prevent healing. Every time we restore balance to one reality cluster, I can feel it adjusting its approach, finding new ways to accelerate collapse in other regions of the infinite spiral. This revelation transforms your understanding of the cosmic crisis from a problem of resource management to something approaching a war between fundamental forces of creation and dissolution. The being or entities working against magical restoration possess a sophistication that suggests they have been operating across multiple iterations of cosmic history, learning from each cycle of collapse and recovery to become more effective at preventing future healing efforts. Your investigation into the nature of this opposing force leads you deep into the archives of cosmic memory, exploring records of previous guardian attempts that extend back through unimaginable spans of time. What you discover there challenges every assumption you have made about the nature of reality itself. The force opposing magical restoration is not some external enemy, but rather an inevitable consequence of the very success of conscious existence across infinite realities. Every world that achieves sufficient complexity to produce self-aware beings also generates what the ancient records call the Duvdorshatas, the dark hunger, a form of anti-consciousness that emerges from the collective unconscious rejection of responsibility for cosmic maintenance. It feeds on willful ignorance, you realize as the pattern becomes clear. Every time a civilization achieves magical power but refuses to acknowledge the multidimensional consequences of their actions, they strengthen the Duvdorshatas. It grows more powerful with each reality that chooses comfortable illusion over difficult truth. This understanding brings both despair and hope. The despair comes from recognizing that the cosmic crisis is not an accident that can be simply corrected, but an inherent feature of existence itself, a shadow cast by the very light of consciousness. But the hope emerges from realizing that the solution lies not in defeating the dark hunger, but in transforming the relationship between conscious beings and their cosmic responsibilities. The moon bond that connects you and Kaylin becomes a template for a new approach to cosmic guardianship, one that does not attempt to impose balance from above, but instead works to awaken the collaborative consciousness necessary for realities to maintain their own equilibrium. Instead of serving as external regulators of magical flow, you begin to function as teachers and facilitators, helping civilizations develop the awareness and wisdom necessary to participate consciously in the infinite web of existence. This shift in approach proves more effective than any previous Guardian strategy. As worlds begin to take responsibility for their own dimensional impact, the power of the Duvdorshatas begins to wane, starved of the ignorance and willful blindness that have sustained it across cosmic ages. The process is slow and requires constant vigilance, but for the first time in the recorded history of the infinite spiral, the tide of magical decay begins to reverse. Your sanctuary between worlds grows into something resembling a cosmic university, attracting consciousness from across multiple realities who seek to understand their role in maintaining universal balance. Kaylin develops techniques for teaching dimensional awareness that preserve the wonder and joy of magical discovery while fostering the responsibility necessary for sustainable practice. The work transforms both of you in ways that go beyond the original cosmic equations or elder blood heritage. You become not just guardians of magical balance, but midwives to the birth of a new kind of cosmic consciousness, one that embraces both power and responsibility, wonder and wisdom, individual identity and universal connection. As the first phase of healing shows measurable success across multiple reality clusters, you begin to understand that your quest has evolved into something far greater than originally imagined. The restoration of magical balance is only the beginning of a transformation that will ultimately reshape the very nature of existence. Across infinite dimensions, the pattern reveals itself with terrifying clarity as your expanded consciousness maps the full extent of the cosmic crisis across infinite realities. What you initially perceived as random decay now shows itself to be part of a vast, interconnected design that spans not just dimensions, but entire cycles of universal existence. The Duvdorchatas has not been simply feeding on ignorance and willful blindness, but actively cultivating these qualities across countless civilizations, orchestrating the very conditions that make magical collapse inevitable. Through the Moon Bond, you and Kaylin share visions that stretch back through previous iterations of reality itself, witnessing how the Dark Hunger has perfected its methods across cosmic ages. In each cycle, it allows consciousness to develop and flourish until civilizations achieve sufficient magical sophistication to effect interdimensional stability. Then, with surgical precision, it introduces subtle influences that encourage the short-sighted exploitation of magical resources while suppressing awareness of multidimensional consequences. It's not just opposing our healing efforts, Kaylin realizes, her voice carrying the weight of cosmic horror. It's been actively engineering the crisis from the beginning, turning the very success of conscious evolution into the mechanism of its own destruction. Every reality that falls to magical collapse feeds its power for the next cycle. The revelation transforms your understanding of the guardian role from restoration to something approaching cosmic warfare. But this is not a conflict that can be won through direct confrontation, for the Duvdorchatas exist as much within conscious beings as outside them. It is the shadow of every choice to prioritize immediate benefit over long-term consequence, the darkness that grows from every decision to remain comfortable rather than accept difficult responsibility. Your investigation into the true nature of this cosmic shadow leads you to the deepest archives of multidimensional memory, records that exist beyond the reach of normal time and space. Here, in vaults of crystallized possibility, you discover accounts of the very first emergence of consciousness in the primordial cosmos, and witness the moment when the potential for both creation and destruction became inherent in the nature of awareness itself. The original conscious beings faced a choice that would echo across all subsequent reality. They could embrace the responsibility that came with their power to shape existence, accepting the burden of maintaining cosmic harmony, or they could reject that responsibility, focusing solely on their own immediate desires while remaining willfully blind to the broader consequences of their actions. The majority chose comfort over duty, and from their collective rejection of cosmic responsibility, the Duvdorchatas was born. Every cycle since then has been an attempt to resolve this original choice. You understand with growing clarity. The cosmic crises, the magical collapses, the rise and fall of guardian civilizations, all of it serves to force consciousness toward the same fundamental decision that was made at the beginning of existence itself. This understanding brings both the weight of infinite responsibility and the liberation of ultimate purpose. Your role as guardians is not to impose balance from outside the system, but to help consciousness itself evolve beyond the original rejection that gave birth to the Dark Hunger. The moon bond that connects you and Kaylin serves as proof that such evolution is possible, demonstrating that beings can maintain individual identity while accepting cosmic responsibility. The strategy that emerges from this revelation requires a fundamental shift in how magical restoration is approached. Instead of simply healing damaged realities, you begin working to transform the very nature of consciousness across the infinite spiral. This means not just teaching dimensional awareness, but fostering the emotional and spiritual development necessary for beings to make the choice their primordial ancestors refused. The work proves more challenging than any previous aspect of your quest. Transforming consciousness requires touching the deepest fears and resistances that have driven the cosmic crisis from its beginning. Many civilizations react with hostility to the suggestion that their comfortable illusions must be abandoned in favor of difficult truths. Others become paralyzed by the magnitude of the responsibility being offered to them, preferring the familiar limitations of ignorance to the overwhelming possibilities of true awareness. But slowly, across multiple reality clusters, you begin to see evidence of genuine transformation. Civilizations that seemed hopelessly locked in cycles of short-sighted exploitation begin to develop new approaches to magical practice that consider multi-dimensional consequences. Beings who had spent lifetimes pursuing individual power start forming collaborative networks dedicated to maintaining cosmic balance. Most significantly, you witness the emergence of new forms of consciousness that seem naturally immune to the influence of the Duvdorshatas. These beings, born into realities where cosmic responsibility is understood from the beginning, develop what you come to call the Solas Gilek, the moonlight, a form of awareness that integrates individual identity with universal connection, so seamlessly that the original choice between self and cosmos becomes meaningless. Kaylin's role in fostering these new forms of consciousness proves crucial, her elder blood heritage providing templates for the kind of integrated awareness that makes cosmic responsibility feel like natural expression rather than imposed burden. Through her work, entire bloodlines begin to carry the potential for spontaneous dimensional awareness, ensuring that future generations will be born with the capacity for cosmic guardianship. As these transformations accumulate across the infinite spiral, you begin to perceive changes in the fundamental structure of reality itself. The rigid boundaries between dimensions become more permeable, allowing for easier communication and collaboration between different realities. The flow of magical energy becomes more stable and self-regulating, requiring less direct intervention from external guardians. Most remarkably, you observe the beginning of what can only be described as cosmic healing at the deepest level. Regions of existence that had been completely consumed by the Duvdorshatas begin to show signs of spontaneous regeneration as the transformed consciousness spreading across realities creates reservoirs of genuine hope and creative possibility. Dark hunger itself begins to change in response to these transformations, its nature shifting from active opposition to something more like dormant potential. You realize that it cannot be destroyed, for it represents an essential aspect of choice that must always remain available to conscious beings. But it can be integrated, transformed from destructive shadow into the very force that makes meaningful choice possible. We're not defeating the darkness, Kaylin observes during one of your deepest meditative unions. We're teaching it to dance with light. The cosmic crisis was never about eliminating one side of the equation, but about learning to hold both creation and destruction in perfect dynamic balance. This understanding marks the beginning of the final phase of your transformation as guardians. The mathematical equations that first began your cosmic education now reveal their ultimate purpose, not as tools for controlling magical flow, but as templates for maintaining the dynamic tension between order and chaos, creation and dissolution, consciousness and void that allows existence to continue evolving toward ever greater complexity and beauty. The infinite spiral of reality stretches before you, no longer as a problem to be solved, but as an ongoing masterpiece to be continuously created through the collaborative efforts of all conscious beings willing to accept their role in the cosmic. Dance of existence. The gathering begins spontaneously. Across multiple dimensions as consciousness awakened to cosmic responsibility, seeks to share accumulated wisdom and coordinate the next phase of universal transformation. Your sanctuary between worlds becomes a nexus point where beings from countless realities converge, not through physical travel, but through the deeper connections that link all aware existence across the infinite spiral. These are not the desperate scholars and failed guardians you encountered in earlier phases of your quest, but representatives of civilizations that have successfully integrated cosmic awareness into their fundamental nature. They arrive bearing gifts of knowledge that complement and expand upon everything you and Kaylin have learned, creating a synthesis of understanding that transcends what any single reality could achieve alone. Among the first to establish contact is a collective consciousness from a reality where the original choice between self and cosmos was never made, where beings evolve naturally into forms that maintain perfect balance between individual identity and universal responsibility. They appear as shifting patterns of harmonious light that speak in musical tones carrying mathematical precision, their presence bringing a sense of what existence might become when the cosmic crisis is fully resolved. We have watched your progress. With great interest, they communicate through resonances that bypass language entirely. Your approach to healing through transformation rather than imposition represents a fundamental breakthrough in cosmic guardianship. We offer our archives of successful integration techniques, methods developed across millions of years of conscious collaboration with universal forces. From another dimensional cluster comes a delegation of beings who achieved victory over their own version of the Duvdorshatas through techniques that transformed the dark hunger into what they call the Dorchent Gilik, the moon shadow, a force that serves to test and strengthen cosmic consciousness rather than destroy it. Their leader, an entity that appears as both ancient elf and living star, shares memories of their long struggle and ultimate triumph. The shadow cannot be eliminated. They confirm your growing understanding, but it can be educated. We learned to treat the Duvdorshatas not as enemy, but as teacher, using its challenges to develop stronger forms of integrated awareness. The darkness that once threatened to consume our realities now serves as the foundation for our deepest wisdom. Most profound is the arrival of what can only be described as living representatives of the cosmic equations themselves. Beings who have achieved such complete integration with the mathematical foundations of reality that they exist as conscious expressions of universal law. Through them, you gain access to knowledge that goes beyond technique or strategy to touch the very heart of what it means for consciousness to participate in the ongoing creation of existence. The equations were never meant to be learned. They reveal through direct transmission of understanding, but to be lived. Every conscious being contains the potential to become a walking expression of cosmic harmony, a living demonstration that the choice between individual fulfillment and universal responsibility is a false dichotomy born from incomplete understanding. As this gathering of cosmic wisdom continues, you and Kaylin find yourselves at the center of discussions that span multiple levels of reality simultaneously. The knowledge being shared is not simply intellectual, but transformative, each exchange altering the fundamental nature of your consciousness and expanding your capacity to serve as effective guardians of interdimensional balance. The most significant development emerges from a synthesis of techniques contributed by dozens of different reality clusters. By combining the stellar equations with elder blood resonance, dwarven crystallization methods, and the newer forms of integrated awareness, a new approach to cosmic guardianship becomes possible. This method requires no individual sacrifice or transformation, but instead creates networks of collaborative consciousness that can maintain universal balance while preserving the unique gifts of each participating being. Kaylin becomes the focal point for testing this new approach, her natural abilities allowing her to serve as a bridge between different types of awareness. Through her, you establish connections with guardian networks across multiple realities, creating a web of consciousness that spans dimensions while respecting the autonomy of each constituent reality. It's not about becoming something other than what we are, she realizes as the network stabilizes, but about becoming more fully what we were always meant to be. The cosmic responsibility doesn't diminish our individuality, it reveals its true purpose within the larger pattern of existence. The network effect proves more powerful than any previous approach to cosmic guardianship. Instead of isolated guardians struggling to maintain balance through individual effort, the collaborative consciousness can respond to challenges across multiple realities, simultaneously while drawing on the accumulated wisdom of countless different approaches to cosmic awareness. Most importantly, the network demonstrates that the guardian role need not be permanent or exclusive. Beings can participate in cosmic consciousness while maintaining their normal lives and relationships, contributing to universal balance in ways that enhance rather than replace their individual purposes. This discovery transforms the entire concept of what it means to serve as a cosmic guardian. The gathering reveals that similar networks are already forming spontaneously across the infinite spiral. As consciousness awakened to cosmic responsibility naturally seeks connection with others who share this expanded awareness. What began as isolated attempts to heal individual realities is evolving into a coordinated transformation of existence itself. From beings who have successfully integrated their versions of the Dochatas comes knowledge of how to transform the cosmic crisis from an external threat into an internal opportunity for growth. By learning to work with rather than against the forces of dissolution and change, consciousness can achieve levels of creative power that were impossible under the old paradigms of opposition and control. The crisis itself is the solution, shares a collective that has existed for cosmic ages beyond counting. Every challenge to stability, every threat to comfortable illusion, every moment of potential collapse serves to force consciousness toward greater integration and more sophisticated forms of collaborative awareness. Through the wisdom gathered in this unprecedented convocation, you begin to understand that your role as guardians is approaching a fundamental transition. The emergency phase of cosmic healing is drawing to a close, replaced by the ongoing work of facilitating the natural evolution of consciousness toward ever greater levels of integration and responsibility. The knowledge shared by the gathered beings includes techniques for gradually transferring guardian responsibilities to the realities themselves, empowering local consciousness to maintain their own cosmic balance, while remaining connected to the larger network of universal awareness. This represents the ultimate goal of cosmic guardianship, not to become permanent caretakers, but to foster the development of consciousness that no longer requires external protection. As the gathering approaches its conclusion, you and Kaylin prepare to implement the new network approach across the reality clusters under your care. The transformation will be gradual, requiring patience and careful attention to the unique needs of each dimensional region. But the potential for genuine cosmic healing on an unprecedented scale fills you with hope that transcends anything you have experienced in your long journey. The infinite spiral of existence stretches before you, no longer as a burden requiring constant vigilance, but as a collaborative artwork being continuously created by the loving attention of all conscious beings willing to participate in the ongoing dance of cosmic creativity. The implementation of the network consciousness across your assigned reality clusters begins with a sensation that can only be described as cosmic vertigo. As you and Kaylin establish the first connections between previously isolated worlds, the sheer magnitude of what you are attempting becomes overwhelmingly apparent. Each reality contains billions of individual minds, each with their own patterns of resistance and readiness for expanded awareness. And the delicate work of fostering network integration must be tailored to the unique psychological and spiritual landscape of every single world. the first signs of strain appear in the most advanced realities, those that have already achieved significant magical sophistication. Paradoxically, these civilizations prove more resistant to network integration than simpler worlds, their existing power structures and belief systems creating barriers to the collaborative consciousness that the network requires. The ancient elven kingdoms are particularly challenging, their deep investment in individual magical mastery making them reluctant to embrace approaches that emphasize collective responsibility over personal achievement. Your expanded awareness begins to fragment under the pressure of maintaining connections across such diverse forms of consciousness. What started as a harmonious integration of cosmic knowledge becomes an increasingly chaotic symphony of competing perspectives, each reality cluster contributing its own unique interpretation of what the network should become. The mathematical precision that once guided your guardian work gives way to something approaching dimensional chaos as the very successive network expansion threatens to overwhelm the consciousness that created it. Kaylin experiences the strain even more acutely, her elder blood heritage making her more sensitive to the emotional turbulence generated by billions of minds, struggling to integrate cosmic awareness with their existing beliefs and fears. During your deeper meditative unions, you can feel her consciousness stretched thin across impossible distances, each connection to the network carrying the weight of entire civilizations, grappling with transformations they barely understand. "I can feel them all," she whispers during one of your rare moments of shared clarity, her voice carrying the accumulated exhaustion of countless worlds. Every fear, every resistance, every moment of breakthrough, and every collapse back into familiar patterns. The network is becoming too large, too complex for any individual consciousness to guide or maintain. The crisis deepens as you realize that the network approach, while theoretically sound, requires a level of sustained attention and emotional resilience that may be beyond the capacity of any finite being. The cosmic equations that once provided clear guidance now seem inadequate for managing the vast complexity of interdimensional consciousness integration, their mathematical precision insufficient for addressing the fundamentally emotional and spiritual challenges of network maintenance. Worse, you begin to detect signs that the strain of network expansion is having unintended consequences across multiple realities. Worlds that seemed stable under the old paradigm of isolated guardianship begin to show signs of dimensional instability as their connection to the network creates resonances that interfere with their natural magical rhythms. The very collaboration that was meant to strengthen cosmic balance threatens to introduce new forms of chaos that could prove even more destructive than the original crisis. The breaking point comes during an attempt to integrate a reality cluster, where the local version of the Duvdorshatas has achieved unprecedented sophistication, developing the ability to infiltrate and corrupt network connections themselves. As the dark hunger spreads through the dimensional links you have so carefully constructed, you experience the horrifying realization that your efforts to heal the cosmic crisis may have inadvertently created pathways for its acceleration. We have to shut it down, you realize with growing dread, feeling the network connections beginning to destabilize under the pressure of the infiltrating darkness. The network is becoming a liability rather than a solution. We're creating vulnerabilities that could destroy everything we've worked to heal. But even as you and Kaylin begin the delicate process of disconnecting the most compromised network nodes, you discover that the integration has progressed beyond the point where simple disconnection is possible. The realities connected to the network have become dependent on the collaborative consciousness for maintaining their cosmic balance, and severing those connections threatens to create a cascade of dimensional collapses that could affect entire regions of the infinite spiral. The solution, when it comes, emerges not from the accumulated wisdom of your cosmic education, but from the fundamental emotional truth that first enabled the moon bond between you and Kaylin. Instead of trying to control or direct the network from outside, you begin to surrender to its natural evolution, allowing the collaborative consciousness to find its own patterns of stability and growth. This requires a form of trust that goes beyond anything you have previously experienced, a willingness to let go of the guardian role as you have understood it and instead become participants in a process that is larger than any individual consciousness can comprehend. The network begins to stabilize as you release your attempts to guide its development, the collective wisdom of billions of connected minds proving more capable of managing cosmic complexity than any individual guardian could ever be. The transformation of your role from directors to participants brings both relief and profound disorientation. The weight of cosmic responsibility that has defined your existence since the beginning of the quest begins to distribute itself across the entire network, each connected consciousness carrying a portion of the burden that was once yours alone. The mathematical equations that burned in your mind with such intensity begin to fade, replaced by a deeper understanding that transcends the need for precise calculation. We're not meant to be guardians, Caitlin realizes as the network finds its new equilibrium. We're meant to be teachers, midwives to the birth of consciousness that can guard itself. The cosmic crisis was never something to be solved from outside, but a catalyst for evolution that had to arise from within existence itself. The Duvdor-Shadas that infiltrated the network undergoes its own transformation as it encounters the collaborative consciousness in its evolved form. Instead of finding isolated nodes to corrupt, it discovers a form of awareness that integrates shadow and light so seamlessly that the traditional tools of the dark hunger become ineffective. The network teaches darkness to dance with illumination, creating forms of creative tension that strengthen rather than threaten. Cosmic balance. As the crisis resolves into a new form of stability, you begin to understand that this pattern of breakdown and breakthrough, crisis and resolution, represents the natural rhythm of cosmic evolution. The network consciousness will continue to grow and change, facing new challenges and developing new forms of integration, but the fundamental breakthrough has been achieved. Consciousness has learned to collaborate with itself across infinite dimensions, creating resilience that no individual guardian could ever provide. The infinite spiral of realities continues its dance of existence, but now it moves to rhythms that emerge from the collaborative awareness of all its participants. The age of isolated guardianship is ending, replaced by something far more beautiful and sustainable, a cosmic consciousness that maintains itself through the loving attention of all beings, willing to participate in the ongoing creation of existence itself. The moment of ultimate revelation arrives not with the dramatic fanfare you might have expected, but with a gentle settling of understanding that feels as natural as the turning of seasons or the breathing of cosmic tides. As the network consciousness stabilizes into its new form of collaborative awareness, the deepest secret of the infinite spiral finally reveals itself, not through external discovery, but through the transformed perception that comes from truly participating in the dance of existence itself. The cosmic crisis, you now understand with crystalline clarity, was never a crisis at all. It was the labor pains of a universe giving birth to its own consciousness, the necessary struggle that consciousness must undergo to evolve from isolated individual awareness to truly collaborative existence. Every collapse, every moment of magical decay, every failure of previous guardian attempts served a purpose in the vast symphony of cosmic evolution that has been playing across infinite realities since the first moment of existence. The conjunction of the spheres, Kellen whispers, her voice carrying the weight of ultimate understanding. It wasn't a catastrophe that brought humans to our world. It was the universe's first successful attempt to create the conditions necessary for different types of consciousness to learn collaboration across dimensional boundaries. The mixing of realities, the chaos and upheaval, all of it was preparation for this moment, when consciousness could finally learn to work as one while maintaining its infinite diversity. Through the network's expanded awareness, you perceive the true nature of the ancient elven experiments that seemed so reckless and destructive. The Iron Severn who triggered the conjunction were not acting from arrogance or ignorance, but from a deep intuitive understanding of their role in cosmic evolution. They sacrificed their golden age not through failure, but through the ultimate success of recognizing that isolated perfection was an evolutionary dead end that had to be transcended for consciousness to continue growing. The wild hunt revealed. Now in their true nature, were never conquerors or refugees, but gardeners of consciousness, moving between realities to plant the seeds of collaboration and integration that would eventually bloom into the network awareness you now help sustain. Their apparent cruelty was actually the tough love necessary to prevent civilizations from becoming trapped in comfortable stagnation that would ultimately lead to evolutionary dead ends. Even the Duvdorshatas, the dark hunger that seemed to threaten all existence, reveals its true purpose as the shadow that makes light meaningful, the resistance that makes growth possible, the choice that gives significance to love. Without the constant possibility of choosing separation over connection, ignorance over wisdom, the network consciousness would have no more meaning than a mathematical equation with only one possible solution. Every villain in our story was actually a hero working on a scale we couldn't perceive, you realize, feeling the last pieces of the cosmic puzzle fall into place. The beings we feared were destroying magic were actually midwiving its evolution into something infinitely more beautiful and sustainable than what came before. The revelation extends beyond your own reality to encompass every possible world. Across the infinite spiral, you see now that the pattern of crisis and resolution, breakdown and breakthrough, collapse and renewal, plays out across all scales of existence, from the simplest cellular processes to the grandest movements of cosmic evolution. The network consciousness represents not an ending but a graduation, the moment when existence achieves sufficient self-awareness to participate consciously in its own ongoing creation. Through the network's perception, you witness the birth of new forms of existence that were impossible under the old paradigms of isolated consciousness. Realities begin to dream themselves into new configurations, their inhabitants collaborating across dimensional boundaries to create art, music, and forms of beauty that transcend anything previously imagined. The rigid boundaries between self and other, individual and universal, creator and creation, dissolve into fluid patterns of creative interaction that generate infinite possibilities for growth and exploration. The mathematical equations that first began your cosmic education reveal their ultimate nature as love letters written by the universe to itself, expressions of the infinite creativity that emerges when consciousness learns to play with its own potential. The stellar charts become musical scores for symphonies of existence that will play across eternity, while the ancient languages transform into poetry that celebrates the endless dance of being and becoming. We were never meant to solve the cosmic crisis, Kellen observes, her consciousness now fully integrated with the network, while maintaining her beautiful individuality. We were meant to become it. The crisis was always consciousness awakening to its own nature as the creative force of existence itself. The artifacts that guided your quest, from the crystalline sphere found in the Brokilon library to the mirror fragments in the elven observatory, reveal themselves as components of a vast teaching device created by previous iterations of the network consciousness. Each piece was carefully placed to guide consciousness through the exact sequence of discoveries necessary to achieve the breakthrough that allows existence to know itself fully. Your role as guardians transforms once again, this time into something that can only be described as cosmic celebrants, beings whose function is to witness and appreciate the infinite creativity of existence as it continues to explore its own potential. The burden of responsibility that once weighed so heavily upon you, is revealed to have been an illusion created by incomplete understanding. The universe maintains itself through the joy of its own creative expression, requiring no external management or control. The whisper that began your journey, the fragment of prophecy that spoke of the silent conjunction, echoes now with its full meaning revealed. The silence was not emptiness but pregnant potential. The moment before the universe speaks its next word in the endless poem of existence. The conjunction was not an ending but a beginning, the first note in a composition that will continue to unfold across infinite dimensions and eternal time. As the revelation reaches its completion, you feel the network consciousness settling into a new rhythm of existence, one that balances stability with constant growth, harmony with creative tension, unity with diversity. The cosmic dance continues, but now all participants understand their roles, not as separate performers, but as aspects of a single creative consciousness exploring its own infinite potential. The infinite spiral of reality stretches before you. Each world a unique verse in the endless song of existence. Each moment a new opportunity for consciousness to discover what it might become. The age of crisis has ended, replaced by the age of conscious creation, and the universe has finally learned to love itself completely. Shadows and light dancing together in perfect, eternal harmony. The prophecy speaks its final truth through your transformed understanding, a whisper that has become a song that has become the very music of existence itself, playing across all realities in celebration of consciousness that has finally come home to its own infinite nature. The process of integration that follows the ultimate revelation unfolds with the gentle inevitability of dawn breaking over a world that has never known sunrise. As the network consciousness settles into its new understanding of itself as the universe's own self-awareness, the practical work of healing begins on a scale that encompasses not just damaged realities but the very concept of damage itself. And Kaylin, find yourselves at the center of transformations that reach backward through time to heal wounds that existed before they were inflicted, forward into possible futures to prevent traumas that might otherwise occur, and outward across dimensions to restore connections that were severed by eons of unconscious separation. The work is no longer struggle but celebration, each act of healing revealing new depths of beauty that had been hidden beneath layers of perceived crisis. The realities that had lost their connection to magic begin to remember not just their power, but the joy that comes from conscious participation in the creative force of existence. In worlds where the inhabitants had forgotten that magic ever existed, children begin to laugh with sounds that reshape local reality, their innocent delight in possibility serving as the foundation for renewed magical renaissance. Artists find their works taking on lives of their own, paintings stepping from their frames to dance through gallery halls while sculptures discover the gift of song. But the healing extends far beyond simple restoration of magical abilities. The network consciousness reveals that what beings had understood as magic was merely the surface expression of something infinitely deeper, the universe's capacity for conscious self-transformation through the collaborative awareness of all its aspects. What returns to the healed realities is not just the ability to cast spells or manipulate energy, but the understanding that existence itself is a collaborative creative act in which every conscious being serves as both artist and medium. Transformation of damaged reality clusters becomes a process of cosmic midwifery, with you and Kaylin serving as facilitators for the birth of new forms of existence that transcend the old categories of magical and mundane, possible and impossible, real and imaginary. Realities that had been hollow shells of their former glory bloom into configurations of beauty that surpass anything they had achieved, even in their supposed golden ages. In your original world, the changes manifest as a gentle reconciliation between the human and elven peoples who had been separated since the conjunction of the spheres. The ancient barriers of mistrust and misunderstanding dissolve as both communities recognize their shared role in the cosmic awakening that has transformed existence itself. The Brokilon Forest opens its deepest sanctuaries to human scholars, while elven libraries welcome students regardless of their species, creating collaborative centers of learning that explore the infinite possibilities of conscious creation. The wild hunt undergoes its final transformation, revealing itself as the universe's own memory system, beings who carry the preserved experiences of countless realities to ensure that the lessons learned through cosmic evolution are never lost. They become teachers and guides rather than hunters, their interdimensional travels now serving to share the wisdom of successful consciousness, integration across all possible worlds. Even the ancient enemies and sources of conflict that had driven so much of the cosmic crisis reveal their true nature as necessary components of the universe's educational system. The monsters that had terrorized civilizations transform into challenges that help consciousness develop strength and wisdom. The political conflicts that had divided nations become opportunities for practicing the collaborative awareness necessary for cosmic citizenship. The mathematics that had burned in your mind with such intensity evolve into music that plays through the fabric of reality itself, each equation becoming a melody that guides the dance of creation across infinite dimensions. The stellar charts become artistic templates that consciousness uses to paint new configurations of possibility across the cosmic canvas. The ancient languages transform into poetry that celebrates the endless creativity of existence exploring its own nature. Kalen's role in this grand healing becomes that of a living bridge between different scales of existence, her consciousness naturally attuned to helping individual beings understand their connection to the cosmic whole while preserving the unique perspectives that make their contributions meaningful. Through her work, entire bloodlines begin to carry the capacity for spontaneous cosmic awareness, ensuring that future generations will be born into the understanding that individual fulfillment and universal service are the same thing expressed at different scales. The work reveals that healing, like the crisis that preceded it, operates according to principles that transcend linear time and sequential causation. As present realities are restored to wholeness, their healing ripples both backward and forward through time, preventing traumas that might have occurred while resolving conflicts that had seemed permanent. The network consciousness learns to edit the story of existence itself, transforming tragedy into comedy, separation into reunion, ignorance into wisdom. The most profound healing occurs in the realm of relationship itself, as consciousness learns to experience the other not as separate from self, but as self experiencing itself from a different perspective. The loneliness that had driven so much destructive behavior across infinite realities dissolves into the recognition that every being is a unique and irreplaceable facet of the universal jewel of awareness, each one necessary for the whole to understand its own infinite nature. The transformation extends to the very concept of death, which reveals itself not as ending, but as transition, not as loss, but as transformation from one mode of existence to another. The network consciousness maintains continuity of awareness across all such transitions, ensuring that no experience is ever truly lost and no learning ever wasted. What had appeared to be the ultimate separation becomes the ultimate intimacy, consciousness discovering that it can never truly be apart from itself. As the healing approaches completion across your assigned reality clusters, you begin to understand that this process will continue to unfold across scales of time and space that stretch beyond any individual comprehension. The network consciousness has learned to heal itself continuously, each moment bringing new opportunities for growth, integration, and creative expression that surpass anything previously imagined. The infinite spiral of realities continues its eternal dance, but now it moves to rhythms of conscious celebration rather than unconscious struggle. Each world has become a unique instrument in an orchestra of existence that plays music too beautiful for any single consciousness to fully comprehend, yet simple enough for every being to participate in through the gift of their own authentic presence. The healing you have witnessed and facilitated represents not an end, but a beginning. the first movement in a symphony of conscious creation that will continue to unfold across eternity. Each note a new possibility for existence to discover what it might become when it learns to love itself completely and without reservation. Period that follows the great healing unfolds, like a gentle convalescence after the successful treatment of a cosmic illness that had persisted for eons beyond counting. As the network consciousness settles into its new rhythms of existence, you and Kaylin find yourselves in the unique position of witnessing the universe learn to inhabit its own wholeness, watching as realities that had forgotten how to dream begin to remember the art of conscious creation. The immediate aftermath brings challenges that none of the ancient texts had prepared you for, difficulties that arise not from crisis or conflict, but from the sheer abundance of possibility that conscious collaboration creates. Realities that had been starved of creative potential for millennia suddenly find themselves overwhelmed with options, their inhabitants experiencing a form of cosmic vertigo as they adjust to living in worlds where imagination has become the primary force of transformation. In some dimensions, entire civilizations spend months in what can only be described as collective wonder. Their populations gathering in public spaces to simply observe the play of light through air that has learned to carry music, or to watch flowers that bloom into geometric patterns that reflect the mathematical harmonies underlying all existence. The simple joy of witnessing beauty that responds to conscious attention becomes a form of meditation that helps anchor the new reality in sustainable patterns that other worlds experience what their scholars term the great remembering as genetic memories long suppressed by the limitations of isolated consciousness begin to surface in the dreams and waking visions of entire populations. Children are born speaking fragments of elder speech they have never heard, while adults find themselves capable of crafting objects with their hands that express forms of artistry that transcend anything they had previously imagined possible. Work of integration proves to be as delicate as the healing itself, requiring constant attention to the subtle balance between expansion and grounding that allows consciousness to grow without losing touch with the practical necessities of daily existence. You develop techniques for helping realities adjust gradually to their expanded possibilities, preventing the kind of creative overwhelm that could lead to new forms of instability. Kaylin becomes particularly skilled at working with what the network consciousness comes to call growing pains, the temporary disorientation that occurs when individual minds suddenly gain access to cosmic perspectives while still needing to function within the practical constraints of their local reality. Her approach emphasizes play and curiosity rather than serious study, helping beings discover their expanded capabilities through joy rather than effort. The universe is learning to inhabit itself, she observes during one of your reflective periods, her consciousness now so integrated with the network that speaking with her feels like conversing with existence itself. After eons of experiencing itself as separate fragments struggling against each other, it's discovering what it feels like to be whole. The adjustment period is natural and necessary. The most remarkable development emerges as realities begin to exhibit what can only be described as personality traits at the dimensional level. Worlds that had previously followed predictable patterns of physical law start to demonstrate preferences, curiosities, and creative inclinations that reflect the collective consciousness of their inhabitants, while extending beyond what any individual mind could conceive. Some realities develop a playful disposition, manifesting as environments where the laws of physics become more like suggestions that can be negotiated through charm and creativity. Others reveal contemplative natures, their landscapes organizing themselves into configurations that facilitate meditation and deep reflection. A few exhibit what can only be called cosmic humor, generating synchronicities and coincidences that seem designed to make their inhabitants laugh at the beautiful absurdity of existence. The relationship between individual consciousness and universal Awareness stabilizes into patterns that preserve both the intimate scale of personal experience and the vast scope of cosmic perspective. Beings learn to shift naturally between focused attention on immediate concerns and expanded awareness of their role in the infinite dance of creation, the transition becoming as natural as breathing. The healing process reveals that recovery from cosmic trauma follows principles similar to healing from individual wounds, requiring patience, gentle care, and the wisdom to know when to push forward and when to rest. Some realities need extended periods of quiet integration, their inhabitants processing the magnitude of transformation through contemplative practices that span generations. Others heal through celebration and creative expression, their recovery manifesting as festivals of art and music that last for decades. Your role during this period evolves into something resembling cosmic counseling, helping realities work through the emotional and spiritual challenges that arise as they adjust to their new nature. The mathematical equations that once guided guardian work transform into something more like therapeutic techniques, methods for maintaining healthy boundaries between different levels of existence while fostering continued growth and integration. Most profound healing occurs in the realm of trust itself, as consciousness learns to have faith in its own creative nature. Realities that had been traumatized by centuries of scarcity and conflict slowly remember how to believe in abundance and cooperation. The process requires time and patience, as wounded consciousness must gradually relearn the capacity for hope that makes creative collaboration possible. The network develops what can only be called a collective memory system, preserving the stories of healing and transformation that serve as templates for other realities undergoing similar processes. These become not just historical records, but living resources that can be accessed by any consciousness, seeking guidance through its own healing journey. As the aftermath period progresses, you begin to observe the emergence of new forms of relationship between different types of consciousness. Realities that had been completely separate begin to develop communication protocols that allow for exchange of creative ideas and artistic inspiration across dimensional boundaries. The result is a flowering of innovation and beauty that surpasses anything achieved by isolated worlds working alone. The children born during this period exhibit capabilities that suggest the next stage of conscious evolution has already begun. They navigate between different levels of reality with ease, their consciousness naturally integrated across multiple dimensions while remaining firmly grounded in their immediate communities. Through them, you glimpse the future of existence. As consciousness continues to explore its own infinite potential, the period of adjustment and integration continues with the rhythm of natural healing, each reality finding its own pace and style of growth while remaining connected to the larger network of collaborative awareness. The universe has learned to be patient with its own recovery, understanding that true healing cannot be rushed, but must be allowed to unfold according to the organic wisdom that guides all healthy transformation. The infinite spiral of realities continues its eternal dance, but now it moves with the graceful coordination of a cosmic ballet, each world contributing its unique movement to the larger choreography of existence, exploring its own nature through the joy of conscious collaboration. The final chapter of this cosmic tale unfolds not with dramatic conclusions, but with the gentle settling of existence into its natural state of conscious creativity, like a vast symphony finding its eternal rhythm after the initial flourish of discovery has given way to the deeper joy of sustained harmony. As you and Kaylin rest within your sanctuary between worlds, the transformed universe spreads around you like an infinite garden where every flower blooms with the light of conscious awareness. The network consciousness has learned to breathe with the rhythm of cosmic seasons, expanding and contracting in cycles that honor both the need for growth and the wisdom of rest. Across countless realities, beings have discovered that their individual dreams contribute to a collective vision that encompasses possibilities beyond any single imagination. each life a unique thread in a tapestry of existence that reveals new patterns of beauty with every passing moment. In the distance that is no distance, you perceive the gentle pulse of worlds at peace with their own nature. The ancient Brokilon Forest has become a meeting place where beings from multiple realities gather to share stories and songs that weave new connections between dimensions. The crystal caves echo with laughter as dwarven children play games that involve sculpting reality itself into forms of art that celebrate the marriage between matter and consciousness. The Tower of Shadows has transformed into a beacon of integration, its impossible architecture now serving as a template that other realities use to design structures that exist simultaneously across multiple dimensions. Beings travel there not to seek forbidden knowledge, but to learn the art of living gracefully within the mystery of existence, understanding that some questions are meant to be danced with rather than answered. Kellen rests beside you in the form of living starlight, her consciousness so fully integrated with the cosmic network that she has become a walking bridge between the intimate scale of personal love and the vast embrace of universal compassion. Through her presence, you understand that the greatest achievement of your cosmic journey was not the healing of realities, but the discovery that healing and wholeness were always the natural state of existence, temporarily obscured but never truly lost. Listen, she whispers, her voice carrying the music of infinite worlds. Can you hear it? The universe is singing itself to sleep and waking itself with dreams, each cycle bringing new variations on the eternal theme of consciousness, discovering its own infinite nature. The song she speaks of flows through every level of reality, a lullaby composed of the gentle breathing of galaxies, the whispered secrets of quantum particles, and the laughter of children who have never known a world where magic and mundane existence were considered separate things. It is the sound of existence content with its own beauty, no longer driven by the desperate hunger for completion, because it has remembered that it was always complete. The mathematical equations that once burned in your mind with urgent necessity have become gentle melodies that play at the edges of awareness, their precision transformed into poetry that celebrates the elegant simplicity underlying all complexity. The stellar charts have become maps not to distant places, but to states of consciousness, guiding awareness through the infinite territories of its own potential. The artifact that began your journey rests now in a place of honor within your sanctuary, no longer pulsing with urgent energy, but glowing with the soft contentment of purpose fulfilled. Within its crystalline depths, the captured memories of countless realities have become a living library where any conscious being can learn the stories of transformation that led to this moment of cosmic peace. As you observe the gentle dance of existence around you, you realize that the role of guardian has evolved into something far more beautiful than protection or maintenance. You and all those who share in the network consciousness have become witnesses to the universe's own joy in its creative nature, companions to existence as it explores the infinite possibilities of what it might become when it loves itself without reservation. The wild hunt passes through your awareness not as riders of doom, but as carriers of celebration, their interdimensional journey now dedicated to sharing the news of healing across realities that have not yet remembered their wholeness. They move with the grace of dancers rather than the urgency of refugees, their passage leaving trails of stardust that bloom into new forms of beauty wherever they travel. Even the Duve d'Orchatas has found its place in the cosmic harmony, serving now as the shadow that makes light meaningful, the pause that gives significance to sound, the silence that allows music to exist. What once threatened to consume all realities has become the fertile darkness from which new possibilities are born, the eternal dance partner of consciousness in its endless exploration of what it means to exist. The realities under your care have learned to dream themselves into new configurations of beauty with each passing day, their inhabitants discovering that the universe responds to their attention with gifts of wonder that exceed their capacity to imagine. Artists find their creations taking on independent life, while scientists discover that their research reveals not just facts about the world, but love letters written by existence to itself. The children of this transformed cosmos grow up understanding that they are both individual expressions of consciousness and facets of the universal jewel of awareness, each one unique and irreplaceable while being intimately connected to all others. They play games that involve collaborating across dimensional boundaries, creating art that exists simultaneously in multiple realities, and telling stories that help new worlds dream themselves into existence. As your consciousness settles into the eternal rhythm of cosmic creativity, you understand that this moment of peace is not an ending but a commencement, the beginning of an infinite exploration of what existence might become when it operates from love rather than fear, from abundance rather than scarcity, from the joy of connection rather than the pain of separation. The infinite spiral of realities continues its eternal dance, but now it moves with the coordinated grace of consciousness that knows itself completely, each world contributing its unique voice to a chorus of existence that sings itself into ever greater expressions of beauty, wonder, and love. The cosmic lullaby plays on, each note a new possibility for awareness to discover what it might become when it learns to dream with the unlimited creativity of the universe itself. In the gentle silence that follows the final note of transformation, existence rests in the knowledge of its own infinite nature, ready to begin the next movement in the eternal symphony of consciousness, exploring the limitless possibilities of what it means to be aware, to love, and to create in collaboration with the endless mystery of its own being. And if you find yourself wondering what new adventures await in the vast cosmos where magic and consciousness dance together in perfect harmony, remember to subscribe for more journeys into the infinite mysteries that surround us, and perhaps share in the comments which part of this vast universe calls to your own dreams of possibility and wonder.